Right off the bat, my cats and chicks. This is your boy Seth Garoo with Maker's Bar, where we're creating 1 million liters today for tomorrow. Cheers is already where I'm going to start this off at, because those of you who know and have been watching Maker's Bar for a while, on my podcast in particular, you know your boy Seth Garoo is a wine dude. I love wine. I love wine with cheese. I love wine with figs. I love wine with spaghetti. I love wine with Puerto Rican food. Wine is one of the specialties, and I had the privilege of meeting one of the CEOs and entrepreneurs we're spotlighting today. His name is Dom, the wine guy from the Fermentation House. And today we're going to talk to Dom about his experience as a CEO and entrepreneur, in addition to touching on some of the facets of wine and wine tasting, insights into a CEO of a wine house, and or just the organizational stuff that goes into doing that, and get to know our Dom guy a little bit. Now, Dom may sound to you familiar to some of you guys if you live in the Ventura County area. His place is one of the companies that you should check out. So please do know that we will be linking some descriptions and having Dom explain some of the areas that, the areas where you can go and check out the Fermentation House. Dom, the wine guy, I must say thank you so much, my good brother, for joining us today about one of my favorite subjects. How are you, sir?
Hey, doing well. Thank you for having me, Seth. It's great to be here.
It's absolutely my pleasure. First of all, compliments to the shirt.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I think
the shirt is
we're
killing
both,
it.
killing the shirt game today.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. It's just one of my things. There's something about a good colorful shirt on a sunny day, and then you enjoy a good glass of wine. There's something about that for us dudes who enjoy that. So I just thank you so much for wearing a classy shirt. That's a wine shirt, and being on being on my program today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Dom, tell us your full name and tell us a little bit about your origin story. Where do you hail from, and a little bit about from the time you were younger to where your journey has been.
Absolutely. Yeah, so my name is Dominic O'Reilly. I live in Santa Paula, California, and our winery is based in Ojai. Our company is called Fermentation House. We make 3 product lines. Our specialty and really my passion is wine. So we have a natural wine brand called Doctor's Orders. We have a cider company.
Doctor's Orders.
Yeah, just what the doctor ordered.
I like that.
Glass of wine a day. The
Dig
second
it.
brand is called Anna's Cider. Anna is my wife. We can talk more about that, but we're a family business, of course. And then the third product line is called Jungle Tea. It's a hard tea,
Woo!
which I think you and I may have tasted together at one point at a festival.
We did.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to mention that one yet.
We'll bring that up later. But yeah, so I've been in Southern California since 2008. Moved down here to come to school and saw the sun, and I never left. Come from Portland, Oregon originally, just south of Portland in the Willamette Valley. You were mentioning your love of Pinot Noir. I grew up making Pinot Noir. So I'm a second generation winemaker. My family has a winery in the Northwest called Owen Row. And I spent my childhood in vineyards and wineries, on forklifts, inside tanks, cleaning bins, cleaning presses, pruning vineyards, the whole shebang. And really fell in love with the kind of like farm to table aspect of winemaking, where you're farming something, you're working with the land, and then you're a chemist in the winery and a microbiologist, and then you have to be a businessman later and actually sell the stuff you make. So that kind of combination really captivated me, and when I came to California, I continued in the wine business. I worked for Adam Tolmack at the Ojai Vineyard for 5 years as an assistant winemaker. After that, I went to New Zealand. That was one of my first stops. I worked in New Zealand for a season at Isabel Estate in Marlborough, making Sauvignon Blanc. That was quite an experience. And then after that, I went to Australia and consulted at Killikanoon Estate, which at the time was ranked the top winery in the world. So it was a very cool experience for me to go to Australia and make some, really, really high-end Barossa and Clare Valley Shiraz and various blends, some Rieslings. Really, really interesting experience. And I came back to Ojai, which I love, just, right off the coast here in Ventura County.
I love
too.
Ojai, dude.
It's a beautiful place. It's a really, really cool community of people, very creative people, a lot of artists, a lot of people retiring from LA, even at a young age, just wanting to leave the hustle and bustle of the city and come to the countryside. And, on a good day, it's an hour to Hollywood. So it's really not that remote, but it feels that way, which is really nice. So we kind of planted roots in Ojai. I worked at a winery called Topa Mountain Winery for, I want to say, 5 to 7 years, basically the entire time it existed. I helped Larry Guerra, the former owner of Topa Mountain, start the company and was the founding winemaker. We made a whole range of really cool wines, and I got to cut my chops kind of as a solo winemaker without, working under other winemakers, and really kind of developed my own style, trying to kind of make balanced, nuanced, sort of, I kind of hate the term European style, but sort of European style wines, lighter and food friendly, acid driven, terroir driven, but with a real tribute and homage to the growing regions of Southern California. So not just here trying to make Burgundy, for example, but treat Pinot Noir, if we're going to take that variety as an example, the way that it might be treated in Europe, or at least give it the same kind of attention and respect that I think isn't always found here in the U.S. So really trying to give kind of a different approach. So I did that at Topa Mountain Winery for a few years, and had an opportunity to take over their winery when the owner retired. So we took over the winery space in Ojai, and my wife and I just started our companies and started going.
When you say you started your companies, what did that look like? What was the origin of that?
Yeah, so I was making wine, of course, my whole career, and there were a few things that we really wanted to do for the wine industry, for the alcohol industry as a whole. One of them was to make wine more approachable. I think there's this real lack of serious, focused wines that are easy and accessible for young people to drink. And I think that's coming around, that is changing. But, back in, 10 years ago, let's say, if you went to Trader Joe's, you were going to find a lot of really mass-produced, cheap wines. Maybe even Vaughn's is a better example. You're going to Vaughn's, you're going to find some really cheap, mass-produced wines, and you're going to find some really expensive wines. But to find, craft, artisan, very focused, very serious wines that were affordable for youngsters was almost impossible. And I just remember over and over my friends asking me, where can I find the wines that you're making? Where can I buy them? And frequently it was mailing list only, or it was at really expensive restaurants in LA or New York, or it was specialty wine shops. And, many of these wines were $50, $80, $100, $200, $500 a bottle. They were all young and working their first job. Most people couldn't afford that. So it kind of clicked for me to really try to bring young people back into wine. Young people aren't drinking that much wine. Even right now, they're just kind of not. They're drinking seltzers. They're not drinking. So one of our missions is really to capture that market and educate them in a non-pandering way, and just show them, hey, wine's really cool, and it doesn't have to be pretentious. It doesn't have to be arrogant. It's a beverage that we've made as humans forever. It's one of the oldest drinks known to man. It doesn't have to be sophisticated. You don't have to, have a steak dinner to drink wine. You can have it by yourself at noon when we're doing a business meeting, and you can have it with bread and cheese, and you can not really think about it. You can have it with smash burgers or Taco Tuesday. So that was kind of the concept with our company, Doctor's Orders, was everyday wines for the discerning palate. I wanted to make wines that were not cheap in the sense of mass produced, but affordable and very, very approachable for young people. So that's been the focus of all of our brands, really, but really in particular the wine brand.
I'm really glad you said that, to make wine more approachable, because I think there definitely is a stigma that's attached to wine being a little bougie. and
Yeah.
or if you drink it, you're looking bougie. But as a chef yourself, and myself a chef, there's something to be really said about having a glass of wine paired with the right meal. And I think that's often forgotten, or sometimes the simplicity of a glass of wine on a meditative day. And it's not about becoming a wino, so to speak, but just the enjoyment of chilling with it. I think that has been forgotten in our rush, in the rush of work and so forth, and the enjoyment of just sitting down with good people and sharing a good glass of wine or two, not three and four and five necessarily, but just a glass of wine and two, and having that really relaxing evening. And I think that is definitely one of the things that I see was missing for a while. So in bringing that to young people and marketing that, what was your strategy?
So our first vintage that we ever sold was released in March of 2020, which, if you remember, that was not the greatest month of all time to launch a business.
No. Somebody say, someone say COVID.
Exactly. We actually, that was the kind of impetus for naming our company Doctor's Orders in the first place. We had already been thinking about, glass of wine a day, and how can we make things healthy, and how can we be consumer focused and really authentic. And so the name made sense in its origins, but we also had the plague literally looming over our heads, and so we decided to kind of use that plague imagery, because that was the foundation of our company. So we took the plague imagery and we went to Instagram, and we sold our first almost 2 full vintages entirely on Instagram, just online. And we would talk about it on Instagram, we'd post about it, and everyone was bored and at home and spending too much time on social media, and we just started doing deliveries in Southern California. We took some of our production team and we just offered free deliveries for our wine for anywhere in Southern California if you bought it on Instagram, and we ended up selling a huge amount of wine. Yeah, so that was the.
If you don't mind me asking, what was the vintage?
So we launched in 2020. The vintages were 2018 and 19.
And what were the flavors?
We actually just launched with a red and a white to keep it really simple. The white was Malvasia Bianca, and the red was a Grenache.
Which one sold more, if you don't mind me asking, during that time, just out of curiosity?
They were kind of neck and neck. I think we probably sold slightly more of the Malvasia Bianca, but similar price points and character. They're light, fresh, lively, acid-driven, great with food, great without food. But I think the Malvasia just has this really perfumed and interesting character, where once someone had a glass, they kept coming back for more, and we would get an order for 2-3 bottles, and then have that same person turn around and order a case the next week. So that was really cool for us to be able to introduce really a lesser known grape variety in the U.S. to people, and have them take a chance on it and then become big fans.
Is it a white or a red? I'm not sure. I haven't. It's newer to me. It's newer to me as well.
Yeah, it's not very common. It's usually planted for a blending grape, a very cheap blending grape, because it can be a high yielding varietal in the vineyard. But it's very perfumed. It's very delicate. It's light. It has a nice acidic profile, and it's a descendant of Muscat, the grape Muscat, Moscato. Obviously, most people associate Moscato with sweet wine, but
yes,
this is not sweet. It's dry, and it's very just kind of fresh and clean.
So it's like a Moscato, but not as sweet.
Exactly. It's dry. It's very
more Chardonnay
thin,
light. More Chardonnay light.
Honestly, more like Riesling or Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay. Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what's your personal favorite wine that you choose to enjoy? That when you say, "This is my go-to," I choose to enjoy this the best.
Honestly, it changes frequently for me. I love wine, and I haven't met a grape variety that I won't drink. So I'll just say that.
That's me, except for the Riesling. I still have a challenge with Riesling.
Really? You should.
I don't know that I found the right kind of Riesling or something. Because
I'll
I just
accept
never.
that challenge. We should do a Riesling tasting.
Hey, I'm game. And you know what? It's funny that I'll even say that because it really Riesling has put me off a little. So I would like to enjoy it, but I just haven't found one in my experience. Or I guess the first two times, it put me off to where I'm not a Riesling dude.
I get it. Yeah. Yeah, for me, honestly, it's really about how it's made, where it comes from, what style it's in, and then also just what environment I'm drinking it in. You know, is it in the middle of
Ah,
a warm day? Is it a cold day? Am I tired? Am I happy? Am I cooking? Is it after dinner? Is it before dinner? There's all of these things, of course, play a factor. But varietals that have been really intriguing me recently are Chardonnay. I love Chardonnay, but typically more Chablis style, kind of higher acid, mineral driven wine. I love Sancerre, so anything that's made in that kind of more grassy, lanolin, southern French Sauvignon Blanc style. And
mhm.
then as for reds, I've been drinking Nebbiolo a lot. I really love
Mm.
Nebbiolo. We grow some
I'm
of
not
that.
familiar with that.
It's
Can you
the
go over
varietal
Nebbiolo?
that's it's the varietal that's grown in Barolo in Italy. So very very
And what is it?
delicious.
What is this character? What is this character?
Tends to be kind of feminine on the aromatic profile. It's light. It's a little bit bolder than Pinot Noir, but not a ton. It's still on the lighter side, but it has a very kind of gripping, tannic, and assertive palate and texture profile, which I find very interesting to have that kind
Me
of
too.
contrast. So it goes great with like bolognese or burrata, or like some of those dishes that you might need a little bit of power, but you still want some elegance attached to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me
So that.
something.
Go
Yes.
ahead.
Please continue. Forgive me.
Oh no, you're good. That varietal in general has just been really interesting to me because it takes on so many different dimensions based on how you're making it, where you're making it, where you're growing it, of course. So that's a varietal that's been captivating me. And then I'm always interested in Grenache. I think Grenache is a variety that's very underappreciated in the U.S.
I agree, Kat. I so agree,
Yeah,
brother.
yeah. It takes on so many different profiles again, but it just has this like really intricate and very layered um, kind of stance and profile that you don't find in a lot of grape varietals. And it can be light, it can be heavy, it goes with such a big range of food. You can even serve it with fish if it's the right profile. But then it can be heavy and inky, and you could serve it with a steak. So it's got this huge range, and I just find that flavor profile to be very intriguing.
I'm very curious. So, Dom, give our audience somewhat of a ABC.
Yeah.
Here's how wine tasting is, and then after that, here's how you think about pairing your wines, if you don't mind. If you can share that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, wine tasting is always about exploration and learning. So I think one of the things that really captivates me about wine as a whole is that there's so much to know that you'll never stop learning.
Yes, I
And
agree.
there's something about that that I think is really profound because as humans, we're always looking for the deeper meaning, right? What's the meaning of life? Why am I here? Why am I here with this person or that person? And all of these various things. And wine tells a story about its origins, which is really cool. There's not a lot of products out there that you can taste and say, "Oh, I can taste where this was grown, who made this." And so I think the DNA of a wine really tells a story, and tasting is kind of about finding that story,
Mm.
and that makes it a bit of a game. It makes it, a very like complicated and complex process, and one where you're never really always sure that you're going to be right. There's such a range of moods that you can be in when you're tasting, or outside circumstances. Are there smells in the room? Are there sounds in the room that are distracting you? There's so many different parts of tasting that can alter your decision really over what the wine is and where it's coming from. So for me, I think it's always about discovery, and obviously starting with taking that glass, you're swirling it, you're smelling it, you're trying to understand what those smells are, and then you're identifying them. And then same with the flavor profile. What are these textures? Is it mineral driven? Is it fruit driven? Is the acidic profile high? Is it low? Is it saline? Is it non-saline? Is the texture gritty? Is it fine? How is the finish? How long does it linger? And then of all of those profiles, what does it remind you of? Does it, have the pyrazine characters of Cabernet? Does it have the saline textures of a Willamette Valley Pinot Noir? And, all of that is just kind of discovering what is this? And I find that really, really cool.
I do too. And I think, what I think I found like as a young introduction to me in wine tasting was you don't want to make the mistakes. And I love that you said this about discovery, because you go in there, and I think when we're younger and you're trying to do wine tasting, you don't want to make mistakes like, oh, I want to still look like I know what I'm talking about. So you toss the glass up to your nose too close or too far, and oh, it tastes this way. So some of those things, I think, especially with young people, the introduction to learning how to understand this about discovery, I think is a big part of the journey, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so how does one discover that?
Yeah, and I think, how does one discover it? I think the very first step is breaking down the barrier, breaking down the pretension, the hesitation of just expressing what you're smelling and tasting. People think that you have to have a special palate for wine or a special nose, or that you have to be trained in a certain way, and I just don't think any of that's really true. We all have good enough noses for the most part to be able to smell and taste pretty much anything that a master sommelier would smell or taste. The difference is, of course, that they've had a lot of experience, but at the end of the day, you're going to smell the same thing that they are. So breaking down that barrier is the first thing. Is just don't worry about it. Don't worry about sounding dumb. Like, I've been doing wine my entire life, and I'll say stupid things all the time when I'm tasting, and I'll make mistakes, and we all do. It just doesn't really matter. And I think the other thing that really helps train palates is just start becoming accustomed to sense memory. Remember what you smell in your daily life. Remember what you taste in your daily life. Even if it's mediocre, even if you're going to In-N-Out, or you're having a salad, or you're eating your oatmeal for breakfast, or whatever it is, like, just kind of catalog some of those sense memories. What does it taste like when I drink freshly squeezed orange juice? And then if you start cataloging some of those flavor experiences, you can bring that back into your wine tasting. So, like, for example, you might have smelled a sidewalk after a rain. It has this like fresh kind of mineral profile, and it's actually like one of my favorite smells, which is super weird.
No, it's not, because I'm a New Yorker, dude. It's to me, it's not unfamiliar. Coming from the East Coast, that was kind of the thing I did actually look forward to. It's like this weird kind of cool thing.
Like fresh rocks, concrete, just that fresh, wet steam coming off.
So, it was something about the cleansing of it. It was something about the cleansing of it or something.
But that smell is found in many wines. It'll be found in German Riesling, and it's found in French Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc in particular from Sancerre generally has a very serious mineral component to it. Same with Chablis, Chardonnay. And so you can kind of have these sense experiences and then be able to use those in wine tasting and use them as identifiers. And I think it's helpful for us to remember too that wine has literally millions of flavor compounds that exist in the real world. So when we say, for example, that we smell cherries in a Pinot Noir, you're actually smelling the physical molecule, the flavor molecule in the wine that exists in the cherry. It's not an association, it's literally the same thing. And so there's this beautiful
I didn't know that.
Yeah, where wine is great. Grapes in particular are one of the most complex fruits or even just natural things in the world. You have just millions of these flavor compounds. And when you ferment grapes, you make even more. and you're literally smelling the same compounds that exist in other parts of nature. So there is something really cool about being able to say, to smell a Sauvignon Blanc and say it smells grassy. It has the same pyrazine character that grass has, like literally the same molecules. So I think those things are very, very cool, and it kind of roots us a little bit in nature when we're tasting and smelling, and it also provides just kind of like an understanding, a foundation for why we make these analogies, because it's real. It actually exists.
I'm so glad you expressed that. That was one of the things I didn't know. Tell me, how does one become knowledgeable about what their preference is, white or red? How does one get that? So it's easy to say, well, it depends if you just like white or red. That's too easy. So for me, I'm definitely a red wine person, but those are for my dinners and so forth. If I'm just gonna do my go-tos, I love Chardonnays like you, and actually you mentioned Chablis. I love Chablis, so I do enjoy whites, but I know my preference would be for quiet, enjoyable dinners would be a red. But on a chill day and so forth, I enjoy my whites. So how does one come to know what their preference is?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe a better way I should ask this question, for a person to know their preferences, try a red with a meal, try a white with a meal, and then you'll discover that. Is there a somewhat of a system or a method to discover which is your preference, or is that just through wine tasting maybe?
I mean, I think it does come primarily from wine tasting. I would also just encourage people to keep a very open mind. The world of wine is very broad, and you might have something that you may not like, but it doesn't mean that you don't like that entire category of wine. So, like for example, you might have a Napa Cabernet and say, "Oh, Cabernet is oaky and alcoholic and not super acidic, so I don't like Cabernet." But there's Cabernet grown all over the world, and it's made in hundreds of different styles. And you could have a Cabernet from Bordeaux that's light and thin and savory and saline and acidic. So I think it's very important to not make rapid decisions based off of one tasting. I think that's really important in wine. Um, I mean, I think you could make that analogy in life too, right? In general, when you don't just make
Absolutely.
quick, rash decisions. But in tasting, you just really want to be careful about alienating an entire category. So I think that's one thing, and that will starts with red versus white, but then moves into the various different varietals as well. And then I think just have like an open mind as well about pairings. So there's a lot of people that, for example, might love red wine and just say, I only drink red wine, and then they want to have a red wine, but they also want to drink, or sorry, they want to drink red wine, but they might want to have oysters on the beach. And those two things just don't go well together. And you might end up saying that you don't like oysters or you don't like red wine after you pair those two things together. And actually, I know somebody that's had this experience before, where they paired the wrong things and then decided that they didn't like either of those things anymore. And so, like, pairings are really, really important. So I think keep an open mind about, if you really want to eat a specific thing, be open about what you're going to drink with it. Or if you really want to drink a specific thing, be open about what you're going to serve with it. Because those can really make or break an experience overall. If you're drinking Sauvignon Blanc, but you're serving a tomahawk steak with garlic butter, you're going to hate one or the other of those two things. You're either going to hate the wine or the food. It's just not going to work. Again, I think it's all about being careful about the experience and being open to exploring different things based on the profiles that you're looking for the day, if that makes sense.
It does. Now, tell me, is there a particular year you found, or it could be a couple of years, that you found most favorable as far as times to buy wines? So 2008 was a great year to buy wines, or 1999 was a great year to buy wines. Is there a particular year you found wines were at their best tasting? Or maybe there's not. Maybe there's a couple. I'm not sure. Or maybe it actually goes into the profile of the wine. I'm
I
curious
actually
if you
think
can
it's the
elaborate.
latter. I think it goes into the profile of the wine, who is making it, and in what style, and then what region it's coming from. So there's years, for example, where even recently, where Burgundy and Chablis have been just totally destroyed by hailstorms, but we had a beautiful, perfect vintage in Ojai. And so it would be a great time to buy wines from Ojai and a terrible time to buy wines from Burgundy. And then there's been
wow.
years,
Okay.
recently, for example, where Napa's been on fire, and they've had some pretty fire-spoiled wines that they're trying to sell off, and the wines aren't very good. Now, I'm not going to say all the wines from Napa from those years are bad, but there's like a lot of smoke taint up there in some of these years. And in other areas of the U.S., the vintages were great. So I think it's pretty rare that you'll have like a globally good vintage versus a globally bad vintage. I think it's very regional specific, and even sometimes producer specific, depending on how the producer's making those wines. But California is really blessed with beautiful weather. We know that, right? That's why everybody lives here, and that's why it's so expensive to live here.
Yes.
But I grew up in Oregon, where making Pinot Noir was difficult because frequently the rains would start before harvest was upon us, before the grapes were ripe, and you would have to rush to harvest things before they were quite ready, or you'd let them hang and take a risk that they might get moldy, and often they would get moldy, and then you'd have to sort them, and sometimes you had good vintages come out of that, sometimes you had bad vintages coming out of that, but almost always you'd have either a good year or a bad year every other year. Whereas down here in California, it's very, very rare that we'll have a bad year. It's very rare. So we don't really have weather here. Like the worst weather that we have to deal with is the heat. And
Yes.
of all the problems, it's one of the least of the problems. We just need to be careful about water management and make sure that there's enough shade on parts of the vine where the grapes don't get sunburned. But it's not incredibly difficult. You're not dealing with mold. You're not dealing with hail, flooding, windstorms, all those things. So in California in general, our vintages have been fairly consistent. I think we have good and great, but I don't think I've ever had just a bad year in California.
I think it brings me back to this point you kind of said, what makes a bad wine? So someone goes who's their palate's not experienced in that sense, and maybe they've had a little wine tasting where they're understood, oh, okay, I like this, I like that. But what makes a bad wine?
Yeah, it's a good
question. To the taste.
Yeah, I guess probably everyone is going to have their own subjective answer to this, but I think that bad wine is spoiled wine. So I think you can have wine that's boring, that's maybe overly manufactured, and that might be wines like, Yellowtail and some of those really cheap $2 chucks. Like, they're not bad wines. They're just...
Wait a minute. Wines. Yo, Dom, let's back up. $2 chuck used to be the business, dude. So we were all kind of fooling ourselves that $2 chuck wasn't that great.
That's right.
Oh, no. Oh, man. Some of those dinners I cooked,
I
thought I was doing...
made in a laboratory.
Oh, no. You spoiled it for me.
Sorry.
$2 chuck used to be the move. And I remember, especially here in California, you get some $2 chuck and you thought you were doing something. So I used to throw these Super Bowl parties, and we'd have our booze, a stronger booze, and then we get some $2 chuck cab, a Sauvignon, and some other some darker ones, and people were just like, oh yeah, $2 chuck, it tastes pretty good. But it is, am I correct in saying this now? And I'm actually going to hold my head down, Brother Dom.
You're good.
When we were drinking $2 chuck, were we eating McDonald's kind of wine?
Yeah.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh man, Dom.
Hey, McDonald's isn't trash. It's just not great,
Yeah. Hey. Yeah, and there is, but I say in this way, everybody, McDonald's, everyone talks about it being bad, but everyone still likes a Big Mac or a cheeseburger or chicken nuggets. but kind of like it's not the best for you. And now I'm a little disturbed that $2 chuck was not as good as we thought it was.
Well, it's hard to be that good when you're making that quantity of wine. They're making millions and millions and millions of cases.
Good point. Yes.
It's made in a factory, and they have to make the wine taste the same year in and year out, and that usually comes with some kind of chemical manipulation, adding flavor compounds to it to make it taste better, stripping things that taste bad, using chemical filtration. So there's a lot of processes that happen with mass-produced wines like that really just try to make it all taste the same, and that's not necessarily bad. It's just boring to me. It's not.
No,
it's
I get
not
it.
interesting.
I get it.
And it's again
And
sort
I
of like
get it.
comparing eating at McDonald's versus going to some Michelin chef for a burger. You might still be getting a burger in both cases, but I think we're all going to say that, you know, great chef who put all his time and energy into creating something really beautiful is a more interesting thing to have. Not that one is
Well put.
bad to do.
Well put. Very well put. Very well put. Tell us, are you in the fermentation house right now? Your background?
I am. I'm in our tasting room. Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, of course. So we're in this old brick building, made it's like 125 years old. Beautiful old brick building. It's on the corner of Main Street and 8th in Santa Paula. When we came into this building about 5 years ago, it was offices. They had made cubicles. There was drywall everywhere. They had covered up all the brick. They had covered up all the old beams. So we came in here, my wife and I and our team, and we just spent a month ripping out the entire place and kind of bringing it back to its origins. This old, beautiful old brick. You'll see it all over town here in Santa Paula. It's very cool. It's a very historic area. So we restored this building. We have a very large outdoor patio, and we use it for tasting experiences for everything that we do. So we serve tasting flights of our wine, tasting flights of our cider, hard tea, and then we serve, you know, wines by the bottle. We're a bottle shop, and then we try to make it fun for people. So we kind of make it a little loungy. We have live music here, usually 2-3 days a week. We bring in food trucks, and we just make it fun.
Well, I am already saying ahead of time, there's a table that has Seth Garoo and Maker's Bar already over there.
Yes. Yes.
But so in the fermentation house, this is actually the fermentation house where people will get the taste of your wines, correct?
Absolutely, yes, it is. Yep.
And so, and I'm just very curious, if someone is looking to come to your place and they say, I want to bring a fish, I want to bring some salmon that I've grilled. I'm not sure that they can bring the food, but if they're going to bring the salmon, what would you immediately tell them to pair it with?
That's a great question. So yes, we do allow outside food. We're not a restaurant, so all we do is serve the wines and other products. So outside food is always welcome. And what would I serve with salmon? Are we talking about smoked salmon?
Great, actually, good thought. I was actually going to say it's grilled salmon.
Grilled salmon. Okay, so we have two wines that I think would go really well with it. One of them is Pinot Noir. We make a very light Pinot Noir from Santa Rita Hills. It's got like crushed rose petal and berry flavors. It's got a really nice acidic profile. It's got a pretty delicate palate. It's not heavy, and I think that with smoked salmon would go well. Or grilled salmon, it would kind of cut some of the char, but still be delicate enough to not overpower the delicacy of the fish. We also make a Pique Pool Blanc, which is a white grape variety from southern France that's acidic, and we barrel ferment that, and I think that would also be a delicious pairing.
People thought that they can't have white wines with fish. Where does that come from?
You mean red wines with fish?
Yes, I'm sorry, I said white wines.
No,
yes,
no worries. Yeah, I mean, I think in general it's a good gut to go off of: fish and poultry, white wine, heavier meats, red wine. But really, I mean, you think about like a tuna steak. Like, there's not a ton of white wines that you might pair with a grilled tuna steak. There are some, but I actually think like a Pinot Noir or a light Grenache would go better with it. So it's really all about profile matching or contrast. I think you either want acid to cut fat or heat. So the acid heat, for example, would be Mexican food or Thai food or something like that, or even like Jamaican food. You might take a Riesling and pair it with a dry, high acid Riesling and pair it with Thai food. It's a great pairing. You have a spicy green curry, and you have this, light but powerful and very acidic white wine. They go really well together. So I think just kind of contrasting and complementing are really important. So if you're eating a light fish, like let's say a halibut or a sea bass that's maybe braised, and so there's no like smoke, there's no charge, it's very delicate white fish. There are very few red wines that would pair well with that. So I'd almost always go with a light white wine, Chablis or Riesling or Sauvignon Blanc or Pinot Gris. So I think it really just comes down to that profile matching.
And then some people I know have had the question asked to me. I know what my answer has been, but you would suggest to people what wines, red or white, should be chilled and are served best if they're chilled, and then what should be served at room temperature.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think white wines that tend to be more acidic and zippy should be the coldest. So Sauvignon Blanc, Riesling, Picpoul, various other white blends like Rhone white blends, pretty much anything from Austria or Germany. Those should all be fairly cold, say like refrigerator temperature or just slightly higher. I think Chardonnays and some of the slightly heavier body wines could be cellar temperature, so that's like 55 to 60 degrees. And then I think there's probably a couple white wines that could do with a little bit warmer, but for the most part, all whites should be cold. And then red wines, for the majority of them, should be just under room temperature. I think they should be like 65. But some of them do well with a little chill. So I think you could have a light Grenache, for example, or even like a really light blend. It could be like Tempranillo or other like kind of cool esoteric wines that are made in a lighter style. You could throw those on ice for a little bit and just serve them slightly under chill and have like a really fun experience. It just kind of depends what you're pairing it with at that point. So I think if you're like just welcoming people to your house with a glass of wine as they walk in the door and you're not really serving food, a chilled red is great for that. Or if you're outside barbecuing and it's hot and you want to serve smashed burgers or sausages or grilled mushrooms or something like that, a chilled red is great. But for the most part, I think red should be around room temperature.
And if you had to say your favorite chilled white, what would that be?
Ooh, that's a hard one. Probably Sauvignon Blanc. I think Sauvignon Blanc's one of my favorite white varietals. That or a Chablis, just chilled on a hot day. Nothing better than that.
And then from the fermentation house, what's your favorite chilled wine?
Honestly, probably Malvasia Bianca. Our Malvasia Bianca, ice cold with some oysters or some mussels or something, is a match made in heaven. It's super tasty, very very.
And that's from the fermentation house. That's from the fermentation house. That's the one I want to try when I come up there.
Yeah, you'll have to.
And then, Dom, what's going on with Malbec? I don't feel Malbec gets its due deserve, dude. I feel it's one of the red wines. I do too, Kat. I really do. And I remember years ago, it was a really good friend of mine who introduced me to it. And there just was such a smooth texture to it that I think is reminiscent of Noir, but it also has some cab undertones, at least the Malbecs I've had before. And I don't hear people mention it. And I'm always curious as to if it's getting its due.
Yeah, I think Malbec had this resurgence from Argentinian producers because it was very commonly planted in Argentina and a little bit in Chile as well. In Bordeaux, Malbec kind of lost favor, I think, after the phylloxera epidemic that happened there, where most of the grapevines were lost or ripped out and replanted. And I think the quantities of different varietals changed quite a bit in France at that time. It was also planted a bit in southern France, and I think a lot of those disappeared. They were also used primarily in blends at the time. There wasn't a lot of like single bottlings of Malbec. So it was kind of an underutilized grape variety that then kind of was rediscovered a bit with the Argentinian wine market. And then I think people started taking it a little more seriously. And now you see it a little bit here in the U.S., and I think we hopefully will be seeing a lot more of it soon. I think it's a really cool grape variety. And as you said, yes, it has this like cool texture, but it has a lot of like interesting berry flavors, and it's heavier and it's richer and it's fatter, but it has like good grip and good acidity, and it's a wine that really stands the test of time.
I really think so. And again, as I mentioned, I just feel that it doesn't get as stew as far as you mentioned. The other one too. Oh shucks, Malbec and it's another red you just mentioned. But the two of them, I don't feel they get enough conversation as far as their pairings and the smooth texture of their taste. And I wondered why that was. So is it because you said Malbec usually was used as a mixture of grapes,
Yeah,
and that's
it was a blending grape back in the day, and still kind of is in France, but in Argentina they've been just making it by itself, and it's delicious. So I think you see a lot of that with grape varietals in Europe, and primarily in Europe and France and Italy, where everything is kind of run by the different appellation controls that they have for France and Italy in particular, where each region has its own grape varieties that you just work with, and you on the label it just has the variety. It doesn't, or sorry, the region and not the varieties. You don't always know what you're drinking. You know, if you go to Italy and you buy a Tuscan, like, you know roughly what's going into it, but it's not going to say Sangiovese on the front. Or if you're in if you're in France and you're buying a Bordeaux, you know, you might know, if you know the
Bordeaux.
region
That was the
well
one I
enough.
was thinking of.
Yeah, if you know the
Bordeaux.
region well enough, you might know that it's Cab Franc or Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot or some combination of the three or two, but you don't really necessarily know. So I think because of that, it's taken the New World to emphasize the individual grapes that really just historically wasn't emphasized at all.
And you mentioned it now, Bordeaux. Bordeaux is the wine I was thinking of.
Okay.
That's the other one I feel similar to Malbec that doesn't get a proper due as far as its taste and its subtlety, but it definitely is a bolder wine, but it has a smooth texture and a smooth afterbite.
Absolutely.
And so the same thing with Bordeaux. Was it used as a combination mixture wine
Well, so
before, or
Bordeaux is the region in France where the wine comes from, and Bordeaux itself is a blend. It's a blend of primarily Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot, a little bit of Malbec.
forgive me, I had one.
It's a big mix.
It's a big mix, and so the understatement of its taste and so forth. What do we attribute that to?
You know, I think it's very, very popular in certain areas. If you're looking for high-end wines in nice Michelin restaurants, or if you're looking for an easy claret, just a basic red de coiffe in London, you're going to find it all over the place. You're going to find it in New York. You're going to find it at high-end restaurants, but it doesn't have the same pedigree as just like Argentinian Malbec, for example. I think because it's harder to get and it's not as cheap.
Okay, so Bordeaux is okay. That makes sense then.
Yeah.
Now, in Fermentation House, as a CEO, what was some of the biggest challenges you face in understanding you are the CEO? What are some of the biggest challenges you had to face as that? And it could include not only being in your particular industry, but just as a CEO that you would like to offer those who are starting up their own companies.
Yeah, I mean, I think being a CEO is challenging. You know, when you're at the top, it's very lonely. There's not a lot of people who understand what you go through on a day-to-day basis, what the struggles are, and what kind of things you have to overcome. It's difficult. It's very
What are some of those? Give us some of those.
I mean, you know, the very first thing is building a brand. So what is it that you're starting? How are you doing it? How are you bringing it to market? How are you funding it? Who are you selling to? How have you identified your audience? How are you marketing to them? All of those things are complicated, and pretty much any one of those could be a full-time job, but it's really your job as a CEO to make sure that it all happens properly. So that's, of course, the very first thing is just getting getting the concept formalized in some way, getting that proof of concept. And then being a CEO ultimately is all about execution. So who's working for you? How have you hired them? How are you running the company? What are your performance markers? How are you enforcing that? What's your disciplinary procedure for enforcement on performance? So all of those things, I think, it's a struggle, and especially if you're an artist. A lot of people get into wine or brewing or food from the perspective of an artist and not from the perspective of an entrepreneur necessarily. They're not necessarily big businessmen that are coming in and just decided to have a passion for cooking or something. It's usually the other way around. Usually you are a chef, or you're a brewer, or you're really interested in fermentation, or you're a winemaker, or something like that, and you decide to take that to the next step. You're not going to necessarily be equipped with all for all the challenges that come your way. So I think just figuring that out and being flexible on the fly and really understanding that you know nothing and you have to learn from every move that you make is difficult.
Is that so? I think that comes into this part, and I'm curious if you're finding this. So Dom O'Reilly is finding your personal brand, finding out who Dom O'Reilly is, because I think that's some of the thing I see in some of the most successful CEOs and entrepreneurs. Their personality is what it becomes their brand. Is that what you're saying? Is more so how to be able to do that? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, I think when you're marketing something like this, which is the wine or fermented beverages, you're really, if you're doing it in a craft way like we are, the personality becomes very important because you're presenting something to the consumer that's all about craftsmanship and artisan, right?
Craftsmanship.
All
That's the
artisan.
thing. Craftsmanship.
So they want to know who's the maker, right? Whereas like if you're dealing with a product like Coca-Cola, nobody really cares who's running Coca-Cola. There's nothing that's like really, really special about the crafting of it. Whether you like it or not doesn't matter, but it's not crafted in an artisan way. Whereas the person who's, hand carving a bench for you, or the person who's made a very carefully prepared farm-to-table meal, or the farmer who's growing, some special variety of melons or citrus, or the vineyard owner who's carefully planted this vineyard on a hillside, those are stories that people want to resonate with, and that's usually what drives them to become fans and buyers of the product. So yes, it does come back to kind of a personal brand with something like this, because it is all about craftsmanship. We're not here to be the next Coca-Cola. What we're trying to do is explore our region or our territories and create our own flavor profiles and share that with the customers. And the customers want to know about that, and they want to know who's doing it and why.
What makes a fermentation house taste distinct?
Well, so Fermentation House, as we mentioned, is 3 different product lines. So I think we could talk about any one of them, but we have, the hard cider, the natural wine, and the hard tea. As a overarching company.
Oh, and by the way, Dom, real quick, now we can get into the jungle tea aspect too.
Yeah, true. What makes us very unique is that we have, 3 different product lines, but everything is very, very, very focused on natural farm to table, sustainable farming, and regenerative farming. Everything is very conscious, and it's very healthy, and it's very clean, and it's very tasty. We want everything to be like very, very like easily drinkable, crushable. So the wine, for example, everything is grown in Ventura County. We farm it ourselves. Everything is certified organic on the farming, regeneratively farmed, mostly dry farmed, so very, very careful in its ingredient sourcing. And then our production is all, as we kind of talked about the European style a little bit, it's acid driven, it's balanced, it's delicate, it's light, it's lively, it's fresh, it's food friendly, and we craft it in kind of a very traditional way. We're not manufacturing it, we're not using chemicals. We are, very, very hands-on with our production process. and really the same for the cider and the tea. The cider and tea are, the hard cider, of course, is fresh pressed apples. The tea is single origin green tea and black tea, and those are all just fermented with fresh fruits for flavoring and put into can in a just super clean and organic way. So everything we do is farm to table, super unique, and always certified organic.
Can people find some of your wines in local markets that are family owned, etc.?
Absolutely, yeah. We're kind of all over Ventura County. We have wines at most of the high-end wine shops throughout the county and quite a bit in LA. Over in your neck of the woods, we're at Woodland Hills Wine Company. We're at the Agora Wine Shop in Agora Hills. We're at a few wine bars in the area too. And then here in Ventura County, we're at Paradise Pantry. We're at the Ventura Wine Company, the Cave, and quite a number of other places in Ojai as well.
And then we were going to talk a little bit about the jungle situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we met at a festival where we were pouring jungle tea. You're talking about being an entrepreneur and like how do we grow our companies. A big part of it for us is what we call liquid to lips. So it's really just like, we're a young company, we're new. We can't expect everyone to just take a chance on us when they see a can in a store. They don't know who we are. So we do a lot of festivals, we do a lot of events, we do a lot of parties, and we do just trying to get people to taste it. Here's a can, put a can in someone's hand, get them to try it, and once they try it, they're hooked. So we do a lot of that. We were doing what were we doing? A reggae festival.
It was at Ziggy Marley.
That's right. And we were pouring jungle tea, tropical peach flavor and hibiscus berry flavor. And those are both single origin tea, green tea and black tea, fermented with fresh peach for the one, and then hibiscus and an assortment of different berries for the other. And just super clean, crushable, kind of seltzer replacements.
And what can we pair those with? And tell people about this a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, they're sparkling. They're kind of like a seltzer replacement. They're just like slightly fizzy, very fresh, super clean. They're dry. There's no carbs and no sugar. They also have a tiny functional buzz. There's a little bit of caffeine from the tea leaves. Just no added caffeine. It's just from the tea leaves. But it's about 30 milligrams. The body processes caffeine from tea very quickly, so you don't get jitters or anything, but it just gives you like a little kind of elevated pickup. And I mean, honestly, I just drink them by themselves on a hot summer day, or if you're out and you're partying.
They're really refreshing too, dude.
Yeah, they're refreshing. If you don't want to feel bloated, you want to have beer, or you want something.
That was the other thing. No bloat or nothing. Yep.
Yeah, no, it's just super clean drinking. And I mean, you can pair them with anything, but you could also just drink them by themselves.
I got to tell you, I laughed a little bit because the name implies a number of different things, but especially if we had a Ziggy Marley concert. But you were so cool. I just was like, I have to get this cat on there because your whole process and your system and your staff, they were so incredibly awesome. And then I am all about local businesses and especially entrepreneurs and CEOs that have built themselves like you have. And then, of course, two other things. You have my favorite thing, wine, and then you're a chef, and I love to cook.
Yes.
Dude, tell us about some of your chefery.
Yeah, so I've been cooking my whole life. I grew up on a farm in Oregon. My dad was really into cooking, so I learned from him at a young age.
My dad too.
Cool. Yeah, it's a fun experience to cook at a young age too. I think you develop your palate a lot more, and you're just always kind of in tune with the senses a little bit more, flavor and so on. We had maybe 2 acres of organic vegetables at my house when I was a kid, and we also would source local meats from local butchers. So I just kind of grew up in a farm-to-table setting, and I loved it. And when I came to California, I realized that this is the perfect place for farm-to-table food. You can grow vegetables almost all year round here. The farmers markets never shut down. There's grazing land all over the Central Valley. There's great organic meat. And I think it was sort of undiscovered when I came down here a little bit, and it's becoming a lot more popular. But you can live off the land here in Southern California so easily. and you don't have to put crap in your body. You know, you can buy natural, clean, local produce, natural, clean meats. So that was kind of the start of my cooking, was just trying to eat off the land and be clean. And I just got really into cooking on fire. That was my big thing. So I built myself an outdoor kitchen and just learned how to cook on fire. I would cook, you know, everything from pizzas to meats to whole animals to vegetable dishes, and, you know, got creative with it and ended up catching some attention. We ended up doing a number of celebrity dinners through that, and you know, we cooked a big dinner at Coachella this year. We'll do very large spreads. So like, I think that's maybe one of our cooler specialties is I'll just do a long table, sit 50 people at it, and serve like 10 courses. And it's all fresh farm to table, either plated individually, or we'll just throw the spread out on the table and have it family style. You know, sharing a meal and a glass of wine is why I do what I do. So being able to curate those experiences are really special for me.
Me too. I got to say, it's some of my favorite times because I'm a big family guy, and having a lot of my buddies over, Chris and Coy and the boys, or my sons, or good friends. And when there is something I saw with my dad and my mom was a great cook too, that I so relate to. When you're serving the courses and people are there and enjoying, and then you have a glass of wine or a couple, and it's with the dinner, there's something very elating about that, and very soul satisfying for me in particular. So I just get that, and I want to explore a little bit of what you enjoy most. Is it the winemaking process, or is it the cooking dinner, or they're even
Honestly,
equal?
it's all of it. I think wine will always take the number one spot for me. I love wine so much, and I love the process and the diversity of it, and the complexity and the challenge. It's very, very challenging. So I think wine is what will always captivate me the most. But I mean, I love it all, and that's why I kind of do it all. And cooking is a close second for me.
Absolutely. Well, Dom, please let people know where else they can find you. And we're also going to attach some of those links into the bottom of this interview.
Oh,
And for
awesome.
me, I personally could go on a little bit longer because I just enjoyed having this. And I'm just so glad I got to speak with you, brother. And I don't think I'm kidding. After we hang up, I'm going to be sending you, remember the RSVP Seth Garoo.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much. This has been a fun conversation. Yeah, you can
It
find
really
me
has.
on Instagram at Dom the Wine Guy. You can find us online, fermentation.house. You can also check out all of my various links, linktree slash Dom the Wine Guy. We also have Instagrams for all of us, our various brands. We have Fermentation House, we have jungletea.co, and we have Anna's Cider and Doctor's Orders Wine. Yeah, please check us out. If you listen to this, shoot me a message. Love to hear from you, and love to have you at our tasting room sometime in Santa Paula.
Fantastic. Brother Dom, thank you so much, good brother.
Thank you, Seth.
This was one of the interviews I have been looking to, so forward to. Your smile, the shirt is slamming, the warmth,
Thanks.
and everything. I just got to tell you, this has been just so much fun, and I really appreciate that you've chosen to share your time with us today, Kat.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you. That was really great.
Oh, it truly, we appreciate you, brother. I can't even tell you. We truly appreciate you. And we are looking forward to letting people know the Fermentation House with Dom O'Reilly, or Dom the Wine Guy. I'm going to have to start calling him Dom, my wine brother. Please do check them out in all their various sites. And again, today we've been engulfed in some of the understanding of wine tasting and its various sources. But not only that, in particular, this CEO and his strategy to coming into what it is to be a CEO in the wine business. We really, truly thank the Fermentation House for joining us with Seth Garoo and the Maker's Bar. And again, as always, please press like, share, and subscribe this information. Leave us comments about what you've enjoyed. It's your boy Seth Garoo with Maker's Bar. We are looking forward to creating more winemaker leaders. 1 million today for tomorrow. Dom O'Reilly, thank you, my good man. And we are looking forward to seeing you up there. Don't think I'm joking, Kat. Right after this interview, I'm sending you my text.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.
Cheers, guys. Thank you so much. The Lovolution is the revolution we all want. Go out today and spread some more love and cause a revolution of love. We love you. Have a good day. Peace, Dom.
Peace. That's it, huh?